Until the next video, the deeper dive of the ending, here are some questions that have come up in my discussion group, all of whom are lifelong nerds like myself. I work as a deep learning engineer, that's AI. It is a rarity that any given one of us could tell you if our socks that day are matching. Number 1, in the end of Remake, the closing scenes, we see Rufus overlooking a helipad that is undamaged, Hojo standing in front of a bridge that has not been destroyed. We see different damage on the Seventh Heaven sign. However, very early into Rebirth, we see that Zack's timeline, the Terrier timeline, the upper plate, including the tower, has been severely damaged. Smoke and the detritus of ruin everywhere. So, what Midgar are these final scenes? Because this is not the Terrier timeline, and nor is this the Beagle timeline, as we have come to understand it. So is this a different Midgar, with a different Rufus, Hojo, Marl, and so on? Or is it that this is the Beagle timeline, and that Midgar, after Singularity, did change? But this leads into question 2. If this is the Beagle timeline, then at the end of Intermission, which Midgar is Zack walking in upon? The church that is in Remake, there's no holy symbol on the wall, and the church represented throughout Rebirth, also no holy symbol on the wall, which makes sense because all of these possibilities stem out from Remake, so there should not be a holy symbol on the wall, and this seems to be uniform. But the one that Zack walks in on, there is a holy symbol on the wall, which is true for Final Fantasy VII, as well as the end of Reunion Crisis Core. And why does this Zack believe that he'll find Aerith in the church? If this is the Zack with the memories of Rebirth, he knows he'll find Aerith in Elmira's house. And what are all of these people doing in that church? But then question 3, as all of these scenes at the end of Remake and Intermission do not take place in the Terrier timeline, and assuming that we don't have another set of Hojo, Rufus, Marl, and so on, then does that also mean that this Zack is in the Rebirth timeline? In my mind, and most of the people I talk to, this is one of the great open questions. Where is this Zack? Is this the Final Fantasy VII timeline? Question 4, Biggs. We know that in the Pug timeline, Biggs was shot, but what about his fate in the other timelines? I strongly believe that we have not seen the end of Biggs because of what happens in the Pug timeline. This is not just a scene to reveal an alternate timeline. This is beautiful what happens. Consider that one of the most tragic aspects of the deaths of the people in Avalanche in Remake is that they all died believing that the carnage wrought by the first bombing run mission was their fault. Jessie even blames herself for her bombs and rationalizes her own death because of what has happened, when it was not their fault. So traumatic is this devastation that during Cloud's trial in the Temple of the Ancients, Sephiroth abuses this lie that it was their bomb that killed all these people. But now, the consciousness that is Biggs is emotionally aware because he responds to it. It did not escape his notice that a bomb has a very hard time taking out most of a sector. It's not a get out of jail free card because he believes he's incompetent at making bombs, but the awareness is there. And consider that consistently throughout Rebirth, consciousness transferal is observed with Biggs, with Marlene, and especially Zack. So even though one embodiment of Biggs died, it is very possible Biggs somewhere else is going to wake up knowing that just maybe that all of those lives are not on the hands of Avalanche. Who knows who he might share that information with? We will see. But the question, Biggs, at the end of Remake, he wakes up in the orphanage and he draws attention to this fact in Rebirth. He mentions he awoke in the orphanage. He has no idea who saved him. So who did save him? It is very strongly suggested that Jessie Raspberry is the one who saved him, because you see her effects on the desk in that scene in Remake, as well as it's very clearly shown as Biggs is talking about being rescued. One of his hands is bandaged, one is not, and there is only one glove on the table. Why? Why would she not tell Biggs or leave a note or some sort of clue that it was her, that she is the one who saved Biggs? The next question, also about Jessie. In Chapter 4 of Remake, Biggs mentions after he went to Jessie's mother's house that Jessie never became a star. On the night before this opening performance, the tragedy beset her father, and she had to give that life up. And yet in Rebirth, it is witnessed that she was a star. So there is something broken in the continuum. And consider the first two questions about a different Midgar. It is more and more beginning to seem that the world of Rebirth is not the same as Remake. And then consider the final line of Remake that was changed. And now it is Aerith talking about the sky that she does not like as she looks up. When at the end of Rebirth, Cloud looks up and now he can see a rift. So perhaps the world of Rebirth is not Remake. What's going on there? Next question, and this one will get a whole video dedicated to it because as I mentioned, I work in AI, so Charley creating a consciousness, a humanoid consciousness in his own likeness, but of the opposite gender, who right from the outset has emergent behavior and demonstrates greater freedom than he does because Charley very much acts like Hojo. I believe there are some people amongst the Square Enix mastermind of geniuses who are one with AI. But back to Charley. If you do the proto-relic quests in Nibelheim, it is suddenly revealed that Charley is not truly free of Hojo. When I witnessed that, I shrunk because now Charley has full access to all of those Remnawave towers. He has a greater understanding of reality than perhaps even Sephiroth. And consider Hojo, as soon as he witnessed that inexplicable phenomena around the Temple of the Ancients, Hojo knew accurately exactly what he was looking at. I doubt that he's been watching Charley the whole time, but he is already aware enough that if he should ever sense what Charley knows, Hojo could be a very big problem. But the question is, how much influence does Hojo yet have over Charley? The next two questions pertain to Yuffie. The first, a very hard one. Her trial in the Temple of the Ancients was different from everyone else's. Everybody else relived a very traumatic moment in their life, a point of abject loss that they had to overcome. Not her. She experienced novel stimuli. She witnessed something that she had never seen before. Further, it's not a natural extension from anything she has seen. Why would it ever occur to her that Sonnen is still alive? Well, not alive, but around. Somewhere in between, caught by Nero, a fate far worse than death. So what was going on in that trial? Was that a manifestation, a dream manifestation of Nero? And does that mean that Sonnen is still around, but he's in the dark life stream? So continuing on from all of this, Yuffie has a choice that's perhaps even harder to make than to attempt to rescue Sonnen or not. And that is, who does she give the energy blast Hayadouken to? Cloud or Zack? Only one of them can get it. The other one's gonna have his heart broke. This will cause many sleepless nights. Here's the next question. We, mass benign gods, imagination adventurers, we have the impossible awareness that everything leads back to Advent Children. We don't know where in Advent Children. It could actually be the ending, the final fight with Sephiroth. We don't actually know if it's the beginning, but wherever it ties into Advent Children is only possible if Meteor is stopped. Is Sephiroth aware of this? So if everything ties back into Advent Children, and Sephiroth somehow is aware of this, as he seems to be aware of everything else, consider that Remake's opening notes start with Sephiroth's creepy music. That Remake was Sephiroth remaking Destiny. Rebirth was about Sephiroth being reborn. Who knows what that really means? But wherever those answers should lie, Meteor being stopped is part of his endgame. That is a scary thought. All the more scary when you consider that the heart-warming shot of Remake was all of the heroes staring into the new dawn. The new dawn symbolizing freedom, a new tomorrow, the unknown journey. But then in Rebirth, it is Sephiroth's sword bisecting that dawn. And the journey ended up not being free at all. It followed the same notes of Final Fantasy VII, even without the whispers. And why? Because the heroes had no lead other than the hooded men. And who controls the hooded men? Nanakai even mentions this in Nibelheim when he says it seems that the hooded men were only in Cosmo Canyon to lead them north. The new dawn, the unknown journey, the freedom was an illusion. So taking in that spine-tingling idea, the heartwarming shot of the heroes of Rebirth is them exiting the cave, the allegory of the cave, when you no longer dance to the shadows cast by a fire behind you, and you leave the cave to look at the real reality beyond. And this shot of the heroes was brought to life by Nomura-san, who is also the creative director of Rebirth, and he said this is the heroes coming to grips with their reality. But if the shot of the party of Remake was but an illusion, a necessary part to play, be gone. Is the same also true of the one of Rebirth? So does anyone, even Aerith, look upon true reality? And the final question, on a much lighter note, the Gi. not good guys. Presently, they want to destroy the planet, but they want to do it so they can be free. In one of the side quests in Cosmo Canyon, Nanakai speaks of he wants to free the Gi from their eternal prison without giving them the black materia. So maybe there's another option. I have a great hope for this, because the Gi might have an answer that no one left alive does. How do you actually get rid of Jenova? She is impossible. She defies the laws of reality. I believe when you are at the edge of creation and you look up, in one direction you have creation and the other direction you have something other than creation. It is red. That is Jenova's color. That's where Jenova came from. Red is also the Gi's color, and the Gi were considered outsiders. But the Cetra are also aliens. They are starborn. They seed planets with life. They are not from Gaia. So if the Cetra are alien and they're not considered outsiders, then where are the Gi from to so be considered outsiders? They might know what Jenova is, the source of everything. That is what Aerith calls Jenova in Remake, future Aerith. And I know that almost nobody wants to see it. If there ever could be a small window of opportunity to redeem Sephiroth, maybe not make him a good guy, but enough that he's not an omnicidal, insane monster, that would be it. Imagination Adventurers, until next time, I bid thee adieu.